내가 모두 쓸어주마!
Hello there.
Hey everyone, welcome back. In today's video, I am going to feature a guide on Ark Abrelshud Phase 1, and I will be covering both the normal and Dejavu difficulties, discussing both its similarities and differences. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the raid. When you enter the raid, there will be a mini encounter with Ark Abrelshud, sort of like a tutorial battle. In this fight, I recommend not to use any potions or resources as there are unlimited respawns, so even if you die, it's alright. After doing enough damage to Ark Abrelshud, she will go into a cutscene sending you into the preparation room for Phase 1. Here is where parties will usually set up their placements for the mechanics to come. For Phase 1, there will be a mechanic which requires the players to go into respective positions to survive. So the current strategy being used is having your assigned party number times 3 for party 1 and party number times 3 plus 1 for party 2. Now that you have your positions, you're gonna wanna make your way over to the specific party platforms, which will separate the 4 party members into groups of 2. Both parties will have 2 respective rooms they will be assigned to, which remain constant. However, the member and room assignment for the constants are always random. To further elaborate on this gimmick, there will be a total of 4 rooms as shown on the image. Each of these rooms will have both a puppy and a statue. All rooms possess their own unique individual gimmicks, and the party has to clear every room in order to proceed. Party 1's rooms are 12 and 9 o'clock respectively, Party 2 being 3 and 6 o'clock. Now before clicking on the cube to start the fight, press tab to check which room you are in so that you can set up your battle items accordingly. Party 1's recommended battle items are Health Potion, Panacea, and Sacred Charm. Bring a Destruction Bomb for 12 o'clock and Whirlwind Bomb for 9 o'clock. As for Party 2, the 3 o'clock room should bring Health Potions, Panacea, Sacred Charm, and a Whirlwind Bomb. 6 o'clock room is tricky as it's conditional on how well the 2 members can stun the tower. The safe setup is to bring Health Potions, Charm, and 2 CC related bombs, examples of which are Flash and Sleep Bomb. Now, let's explain each room's mechanics and how to beat it. In every room, there will be a lighted tile mechanic that happens every 20 seconds. Red and blue tiles damage you, and the yellow tile grants the player a damage and damage reduction buff for 20 seconds. Managing this buff is extremely easy by looking at the buff timing and preparing for the mechanic once your buff is near expiration. This mechanic won't be in Dejavu. Starting with the 12 o'clock room, your job is to break the dog's shield with destruction and kill it while juggling the explosive ball that the statue throws out at regular intervals. The ball is automatically aggroed to the closest player, so do communicate or plan accordingly with your partner. For example, if your class has a higher destruction, you can tell the other party member to go on ball duty while you break its shield. Finally, make sure to monitor the blindness and slow debuffs from Party 2 on your character, and be prepared to use the Panacea or Charm to cleanse yourself or your ally, because if the ball touches you, it unleashes an almost instant raid-wide AoE that could kill other party members and forcing a restart. In the 9 o'clock room, instead of destruction, the shield will break once you have killed 25 of the mini-dog. The shield's strength is also displayed as a buff icon under the dog's HP. For the statue, it will raise its arms in the air and prepare to unleash an AoE-wide fear on all party members. This mechanic will happen every 25 seconds, and players will have to impair the statue here to prevent potential party disasters like fear into ball AoE party damage. For Party 2 in the 3 o'clock room, the statue does damage to all players every 15 seconds and inflicts a uncleansable stacking debuff along with it. The higher the stacks, the more damage taken. Anywhere more than 5 stacks is considered deadly and will do well over half your health instantly. Both the statue and the dog's shield is based off impairment here, However, the main gimmick in this room is controlling the statue's stacks. The current strategy is to impair the statue at 3 stacks just before it reaches 4, and in doing so will reset the debuff and the statue will have to begin restacking once again. In normal difficulty you get to impair the statue once, however in Dejavu you can impair it twice. Oh, and don't forget to kill the dog. Over on the other side at 6 o'clock, the shield here is based off of impairment, however the statue in the middle will also give out a stacking debuff which hinders the player's vision and movement speed. Unlike the one in 3 o'clock, the buff can be cleansed, which makes it less of a threat and players can stun the statue in order to prevent the debuff. Stunning the statue, however, requires the player to time it correctly. If you miss the timing, the debuff will still go through and stunning correctly a second time will only prevent the incoming stack and not remove its initial one. After successfully beating the 4 rooms, the first wall separating your party will be removed. Here each party will face off against 2 different bosses. Party 1 fights Hammer Dude and Party 2 fights Bow Dude. Both of these bosses have a damage reduction buff which requires huge amount of destruction to remove. To beat this phase, both parties will have to kill the 2 bosses together, bearing a 10-second time frame from the first kill. If you fail to kill the boss within the 10-second time frame, they will resurrect with 2 health bars and the process repeats until done correctly. Now, I will give a brief explanation and visual on some key attacks to avoid. You can skip directly to the start of this fight if you're one of those mechanically gifted genius players that can dodge everything somehow. Okay, let's start with the Hammer guy, which is Party 1's boss. This boss has 8 attacks, 1 being a counterable move and 3 slightly major ones. First attack, Big Bonk. Second attack, Bonk Bonk Bonk. Third attack, Swipe Swipe. Fourth attack, he leaps at you. Great, now you know all of its stray damage abilities. Moving on. First major, he will stab the foot of his spear into the ground doing a mini cross-shaped explosion before jumping and throwing a spear at a targeted player. The location his spear lands will leave a circular AoE that staggers and does damage 4 times. Second major, raises his hammer and unleashes a cone-shaped AoE forward 4 times. Third major, hammer on ground and does a wide spin, safe spots are near him or far away. As for Party 2's boss, they will face off against Archer Dude. It has no counter moves, 3 majors and 4 strays. So, he shoots 5 arrows, pew. Backward jumps, 3 arrows, pew. Swings the spear downwards followed by a mini jump smash. Spear swing upwards, jumps back followed by a flurry of arrows. Now for the majors. Similar to Hammer Dude, spear tip to the ground following a 360 swing. Safe spots are as usual, near or far away. After the swing, he fires arrows into the air tracking the player 4 times. Flower symbol or whatever it is, after the arrows land, 4 more arrows will drop around him as a circle AoE. Tekal mechanic charges bow and shoots into a portal. Stay clear from the center as it does damage. Shortly after, portals will appear where your character was last standing with the arrow's attack range. This mechanic hurts quite a bit, so try not to get hit. At the start of the fight, usually the Esther energy should be fully charged or close to it. The strategy here is to stay at the center or to line the bosses up for Cillian. Cillian does damage in 2 intervals, one on the initial strike and one on the explosion. You ideally want to get the explosion in as it makes for majority of the damage and also destroys the boss's armor. From here on, you just have to do damage while dodging the boss's attacks or random tiles that spawn on the map. The tile mechanic for this phase is also not present in Dejavu. After successfully defeating both bosses, the final wall will come undone as the 2 bosses combine into some weird looking thing. This will be the final boss you have to fight in order to beat phase 1. Gehena's attacks are mostly the same from the earlier fight with a minor addition of some slightly deadly attacks to its arsenal. There will also be blue and red lighted tiles present during this fight, and the blue tiles specifically have quite a few different patterns. The 2 main mechanics in this fight will happen at 84 and 42 bars. These mechanics can often spell doom for the party if not performed properly. Alright, first let's take a look at Gehena's new attacks, its upgrades and positionals. For this boss, the hammer is the front and the bow is the back. However, in the fight itself, there will be mechanics whereby Gehena will twist and turn quite a lot, which might confuse back attack players on where the boss's back is actually at. And usually for attacks like these, the boss's back remains constant at where it first started the attack animation, as shown on the screen. So if you're playing a back attack class, do take note and try to memorize its positionals to maximize your DPS. Now onto the attacks. Gehena's big bonk now summons 4 brown lightning strikes, which happens 4 times on the ground slightly away from him. That explanation kinda sucked, so here's a clip instead to help understand the attack better. Next, we have his clockwise spinning attack. Instead of firing 4 cone-shaped AoEs forward, Gehena will now turn 180 degrees clockwise while firing on both the arrow and hammer. After completing the 180 turn, he will do a big semicircle slash on where his hammer arm is at. To put it simply, his spear arm is the safe zone and the hammer arm is the danger zone. Warlords can also taunt the boss here to cancel the mechanic. The jump move will also be modified in this phase. The bowhead will do a forward swing with its spear. Shortly after, the hammerhead will follow up with the spear foot to the ground, causing a star-like shaped laser to shoot out, before jumping into the air and throwing the spear at a targeted player, which causes the same AoE bomb that happens 4 times with balls that spread out from it 2 times. I will now cover the specific blue tiles mechanic. As we can see here in the image, there are these specific blue stuffy looking tiles. Stepping on those will cause blue tiles to explode outwards in a cross shape. However, if these specific blue tiles are left alone for a long time, it will transform into a thick, opaque, blue-like substance which is very obvious on the ground. These tiles are extremely deadly and can instantly kill you if you stand in it for more than 2 seconds. Usually we have the supports to cover for this mechanic by intentionally triggering the blue tiles. The mechanics at 84 and 42 bars requires the players to be positional, so having those blue tiles spawn could prove to be annoying later on. So it's much safer to just remove them than to leave them alone. After damaging Gehena down to 84 bars, the first mechanic will start. Gehena will leap to the middle of the map and spawn lights at 12 and 6 o'clock respectively. These lights will act as safe zones for the party and a total of 8 lights will spawn when completed correctly. To do this mechanic, the members will have to go to their assigned positions and step into the lights as soon as possible. This is because the lights spawn in pairs. After 12 and 6 are stepped on, 3 and 9 will light up as so, and the process repeats. In a scenario whereby a party member dropped early and they are at the 6 o'clock or 12 o'clock positions, be ready to sub for their spot, especially if you are on the 3 or 9 o'clock positions, as your light won't spawn if no one goes to the 6 or 12 o'clock first. So do communicate with your party on who the replacement will be in advance to prevent miscommunication and potential deaths. Now for the last mechanic at 42 bars, here we call this the counter pattern. Gehena leaps to the middle again and summons 4 additionals at 12, 3, 6, and 9 o'clock. These additionals will spawn mobs constantly which can disrupt the counter phase. Here players will need to counter Gehena 6 times to finish the mechanic, and 5 times in Dejavu. Gehena's counter will always start on the right as shown on screen and will rotate in random directions after the first counter happens. An easy way to spot when he is going to counter is when he raises his hammer hand up. There have been many cases of players missing their counter due to hitting it too early, so I recommend to use your counter whenever the hammer rises. Failing to counter Gehena once will result in massive damage, and the second time will result in a raid wipe. For strategies, players can use Bahunter here, which allows you to tank 2 more hits. The more popular strategy, however, is to use Azena to kill the mobs that have been spawned and just let players focus solely on the counter mechanic. After the 20th October update, Gehena no longer silences the players who counters him and reduces the cooldown of all skills whenever he is countered. So as you can see on screen, this mechanic is piss easy to do now with players just running and chasing after his hit. If your party prefers to do the safe method, however, I will show a clip of the all unnerfed version whereby we assign party 1 to left and party 2 to right to do the counters. Players will counter the boss based on their party numbers, and as an example, party 2, member 1 will always do the first counter on the right. Also, one more thing to note is that the player who lands the counter on Gehena will be marked with a brown circle AoE that tracks the character 3 times. This attack staggers and does decent damage, so if you see that you hit the counter, do move out and wait for the attack to end before attempting to counter again. Once you beat the counter phase, all your party has to do is survive and damage his last 42 lines of HP to clear phase 1. But don't get too excited just yet. As I mentioned earlier, the blue tiles that spawn and transform can instantly kill you if you are not careful, so remember to stay alert and ping if you see any tiles on the map. Well, that concludes pretty much everything you need to know for Phase 1. If you have any questions or feedback, do leave a comment and I will do my best to reply. Lastly, thank you all again for watching. I'll see you next time.